This is the first in a series of videos that shows the process of making an Apple immersive video using the Blackmagic URSA Cine Immersive camera and DaVinci Resolve. We aim to show how you can tell stunning immersive stories with a modest budget and how you can manage all of the equipment required to operate this camera with a small crew. It's our hope that you'll enjoy this series of videos, regardless of whether you have a direct interest in producing immersive content. We will discuss practical principles that apply to any production, 2D included, and any budget. We hope to provide inspiration for your own creative work. As the Apple immersive video format is new to us, we have chosen a subject that is already familiar, the incredible trail and hut system in the Alps. That way we can concentrate on making the most of this medium. This is our walk before you can run first immersive production. When shooting 2D, there's a lot of gimmicks and tricks that you can fall back on to make your image more interesting. Things like shallow depth of field, fast cutting, vintage lenses, long focal lengths to exclude information from the frame, and so on. You get none of that with immersive. That's why it was critical for us to choose a location and story that speaks for itself. One of the places that we draw inspiration from is the IMAX movies from McGillivray Freeman. If you think the URSA Cine Immersive is a big camera, go look up the Solido 3D IMAX camera. IMAX typically has a slower flow, where the composition and beauty of a single shot is prioritized and given room to breathe in the edit, and the audience are encouraged to roam that image. Many of those techniques feel at home in the immersive format. A travel doc with an affable talent is a perfect subject for an immersive production. It's hard to explain why immersive is so good without repeating the word immersive. So if you have not already, please go demo an Apple Vision Pro and work your way through the growing library of Apple immersive video. You have to see it to understand. Here's our goal. We want you to be able to follow us on an adventure to a part of the world that you have never been before. There will be visuals, music, and dialogue. The filming locations are remote and inaccessible, so we need to formulate a plan that allows us to manage our equipment and logistics with a small crew and a small budget. Depending on where you are in your career journey, we might be showing equipment that is affordable or equipment that seems expensive. Please remember, creativity is not limited by the equipment that you have access to. At the same time, it's impossible to separate filmmaking from equipment. It's intrinsically dependent. This is the equipment we had access to. It's not the only equipment available, but there are universal principles that will apply. The reason why it's relevant to talk about equipment, because we want to show you what it takes to shoot immersive. We have a crew of 4. All our equipment must be carried by hand. Let me show you what we took and how we managed it. At the heart of our production is the Blackmagic Design URSA Cine Immersive camera. It's currently the only commercially available camera capable of delivering the frame rate and resolution required for Apple immersive video. The camera weighs around 5 kilograms. That's heavy, but in the camera's favor, it doesn't require any lenses or additional accessories. We've carried 2D cameras that, when combined with 2 or 3 lenses, weigh considerably more than the immersive. The only additional equipment that the camera requires is batteries. We're using SWIP Bivo 160 kilowatt-hour batteries. They meet the requirements for airline carry-on. While we flew with 4, we only carried 3 on our hike. The camera and batteries are more than enough for one person to carry. That was my job. Stability is important when shooting immersive. You don't want to make your audience motion sick. Camera movement is possible, but it requires gimbals, steadicams, dollies, and technocranes, drones, or even helicopters, of which we have none. But we are carrying a tripod. We need something steady. In the valley, we used a fluid head, but given its weight, we opted to leave it when we headed to the mountains. Instead, we used a 100mm half-bowl adapter with a Kessler quick-lock plate. While not as convenient, the weight savings were worthwhile. We're also carrying a Mavic 4 Pro to shoot behind the scenes and 2D content that we will insert into the immersive video. We'd love to fly the immersive camera itself, but that's beyond our budget. The immersive camera only has stereo microphones. As demoed in our previous video, we paired the camera with a Sennheiser Ambio and Zoom F6 for recording ambisonic audio. The tripod, drone, and audio equipment are more than enough for one person to carry. That was Robbie's job. So you can see how we shot this immersive project. We're filming extensive behind the scenes using an iPhone 16 Pro Max in a Moment Super Cage that allows us to attach batteries and memory. That's being carried by Ruben along with additional memory modules for the camera, charging equipment, and other miscellaneous accessories. By the way, we're shooting on the iPhone at 60 frames per second, just in case we want to integrate that footage into our immersive production. Natalie is carrying food and mountaineering equipment. Finally, we're taking additional equipment that we left at our base camp in the valley: laptops, memory cards, readers, spares, a Pixis 6K, and DZO Arles Prime lenses. How are we carrying all of this gear? While trekking, we are using the Lowepro Photosport X 45 litre. It's a proper trekking bag with things like hooks for axes. Internally, it's compatible with Lowpro's Gear Up camera box. We packed the equipment for each crew member in their own camera box. Being able to separate equipment from the bags with these boxes made it much easier to stay organised and manage equipment. They don't offer the same protection as a hard case, but they are considerably lighter and smaller. It's an excellent compromise that really suited our kit and team and the type of project that we were on. We're also using CRD bag pouches to organise miscellaneous equipment and a pelly case for base camp. From the airport, we took a train all the way to Meiringen and then a taxi up to our base camp located in Rossenlau, where our hike began. While hiking, we will be staying in mountain huts. Many are run by the Swiss Alpine Club. They're managed, can sleep large numbers of people, have hot food, and critically, typically have a limited supply of electricity. More about charging later. Our first day of hiking involved an ascent of over 1,000 meters to our first night of accommodation, Dossenhut. The route is steep and involves scrambling. In this video, the journey is just as interesting as the destination. This brings me nicely on to our first creative talking point. In many ways, shooting immersive is simpler than shooting 2D. There's no focus or lens choice, and edits tend to play out longer, reducing the burden of coverage. However, in other ways, it's more complex. For a start, there's no handheld. Every time we want to shoot, we've got to set up the tripod, get the immersive camera out, and in most cases, add audio equipment too. To provide an edit with flexible footage, we'll walk from out of frame, in frame, and then out of frame again. With a 180-degree field of view, that can be quite far. Thus, it might take 15 to 20 minutes per shot. Given the length of our daily hikes, that meant we needed to consider when and where we decided to shoot. We have walked this route before, so we were able to visualize shooting locations. For example, this picture is from a previous trip. We knew we wanted to capture this in immersive, and here we are. It's just a single take because resetting takes too much time. This entire series of videos is sponsored by Audio, where with our discount code, you can get 70% off an entire year of royalty-free music. We use Audio for all of our music. I'd like to highlight a genuinely useful feature, and that is their phone app. The homepage features new artists and playlists. That's a great place to start if you don't know what you're looking for yet. If you're out and about, when you've got time to kill, instead of listening to the music you already know, you can explore Audio's library and start building ideas for your next edit. If you're looking for something specific, head to search. You can do all the normal stuff like search through song titles, artists, and keywords, or you can hit this button in the middle. This is Hands AI. It understands the music in Audio's library. You can either describe the kind of song you're looking for or describe the kind of video you're looking to make. Either way, when you find songs you like, mark them as a favorite. Now, when you sit down to start editing, instead of starting from zero, you're already ahead. You can get an entire year of Audio Pro for just $60 using our discount code in the description. We're going to show immersive footage in this 2D video. It will either be presented in lens space, as a 3D visualization, or will show an animated viewport rendering, simulating what your experience might be like inside the Vision Pro. Neither method does the footage justice when viewed in 2D. It's here simply as a teaching aid. Immersive has two superpowers. One, the ability to look around. Don't forget that means not just looking left and right, but also looking up and down. And two, the ability to sense depth. To fully utilize the power of immersive, we took care to frame shots that maximize depth and are exciting to explore. So for example, in this ladder shot, the audience is able to look down over the cliff edge. They're able to sense how much farther away the terrain below is, and they're able to track the characters as they move through the scene. In this example, the mountain towers above the river. For the audience, the act of moving their neck to look up at the mountain impresses upon them how high it is. There's something else really cool that also happens. In real life, your eyes converge differently when looking at something close or looking at something distant. Well, thanks to the accurate way that the URSA Cine Immersive captures depth and the accurate way that the Vision Pro renders it, your eyes also converge naturally for distant or near objects. This is another factor that contributes to the feeling of realism when you're in the headset. The camera framing guide shows your audience's field of view when looking directly ahead. We found it's best to keep the main points of interest within or near this guide, because spending prolonged periods of time in the headset looking towards the edge of the image might be uncomfortable. And of course, the other thing is that the edge of the image becomes visible in your peripherals too. There's lots of other great examples of shots with depth that encourage the audience to roam. Now, that doesn't mean that every shot can or should have depth and detail dialed up to 11. Just like in regular 2D production, a variety of shot types keeps an edit interesting. For example, in this panoramic shot, everything is distant. It's still stunning, but its simpler composition is a welcome palette cleanser for the audience and will heighten the depth of any shots that follow. A single 160 Wh B-mount battery will last around 1 hour and 40 minutes. Our goal was to use no more than 2 batteries per day, allowing us a contingency if overnight charging was not available. When shooting 2D, it's difficult to frame up a shot without turning the camera on. On the other hand, it's easy to frame up an immersive shot without turning the camera on. Let me show you how. Hold your arms out wide in a straight line. That represents the limit of what the camera can see. Now look around with your head. That's what your immersive shot is going to look like. The camera boots very quickly, so it's possible to be conservative with battery power without compromising our creative vision. What about charging? We have a dual mount B-mount charger. It's compact, but not compact enough to hike with. We love batteries that charge via USB-C. It makes travel easier. These batteries do not feature USB-C ports, but it's not a problem. We used a bidirectional USB-C to D-tap adapter. You can use them to power a USB accessory from D-tap, or you can use them to charge a battery from a USB-C power supply. Even when power is available in huts, socket space is usually sparse. This 300 watt supply can easily charge 2 B-mount batteries at 65 watts, plus the drone, other V-mounts, and phones. Please note, it's common to have to pay for electricity in SAC huts. During the week, we had to adjust our schedule to suit the weather. As a result, we ended up taking an unexpected helicopter ride. Helicopters charge by the minute, so there's no time for messing around. Without knowing exactly which way the helicopter would approach, we positioned ourselves with a view of the hut and helipad. In hindsight, I would have liked the helicopter to be more centrally framed as it approached and departed. We boarded quickly. I sat in the rear, set up the camera and lashed it to my harness with a sling to prevent the camera from becoming a hazard in the unlikely event of disturbance. It's one of the few moving shots in the piece, and we think it works really well. The helicopter interior serves as a visual anchor that makes the motion of the helicopter more tolerable. The bank turns are spectacular, as is being able to see the hut as we come into land. It's very stable considering it's on a freestanding tripod with a narrow footprint. I also love being able to explore the pilot's instrumentation and see how he flies, but it's not perfect. The camera is almost directly between Natalie and the pilot. Being so close, it makes it a little bit hard to focus on them. The shot's saving grace is that your attention is fixed on what's happening ahead, so they act more as a natural vignette for the scene. The URSA Cine Immersive has a dedicated time-lapse mode. When engaged, the camera still runs at its base rate, whatever you've configured it to. In our case, that's 90 frames per second. But instead of recording every frame, it skips frames. This means that it still draws around the same amount of power, but it uses less storage. As power was limited, we only recorded time-lapse when we knew we had access to power for charging. If you need better low-light performance, you can switch the camera to a lower base rate, like 30 FPS, which will yield around 1.5 stops of additional exposure. In that instance, the footage will need to be reconformed to 90 in post. If you're shooting real-time footage in low light, you can use the same trick, reduce the base rate to 30 frames per second. In this instance, you need to be considered with motion, as you'll need to use optical flow to bring it back to 90 in post. We will capture 2 types of audio on location: ambisonic and regular mono or stereo audio for dialogue and sound effects. We're using Tentacle Sync for timecode. Although the camera operates at 90 frames per second, it uses 30 FPS timecode. We had the idea of opening and closing the video with Natalie talking to the camera. We will decide in the edit whether to use those shots or not. Regardless, to capture that audio, we use Tentacle Trackie recorders paired with Sennheiser MKE2 microphones. Given that some of this audio is recorded in very windy locations, we might ADR it, but it's good to have a reference. As demonstrated in our previous video, ambisonic audio is being recorded with the Sennheiser Ambio and Zoom F6 recorder. We'd love to be able to fly the URSA Cine Immersive, but that requires a heavy lift drone, a specialist crew, and a lot of logistics. Instead, our plan is to integrate regular 2D aerial footage. We'll show that process in a future video. The Mavic 4 Pro is an ideal fit for 2 reasons. 1, it can record 6K. While that doesn't match the URSA's 8K image, it is sufficient as our aerials don't have a 180-degree field of view. And 2, it can record at 60 frames per second at full resolution. We chose this over the camera's 120 frames per second mode as resolution was more important, and 60 can easily be conformed or optical flowed to 90. We flew the drone in accordance with the local legislation, requesting permission from nearby heliports when appropriate and avoiding no-fly areas. At Apple's recommended compression ratio, the camera records around 900 megabytes per second. That's around 54 gigabytes per minute of content. Therefore, a conservative shooting approach is needed. We took 4 8TB media modules. That's enough for about 6.5 hours of footage. We're targeting a 10-minute video. If we can't shoot 10 minutes of content with 6 hours of storage, then we're in trouble. To keep the budget down, we're using mechanical storage for our backup. This Lacy 2Big Dock 36TB is only $1,200. We could have used 2. Instead, we're using the camera cards themselves as the second backup. As mentioned, we didn't hike with laptops or hard drives. These were all left at base camp. The downside of mechanical disks is their speed. Here's our offload process. Instead of a dedicated media module reader, we used the camera as our reader with a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection. Transferring an entire 8TB card to an SSD across a 10 gigabit Ethernet connection should take around 2 hours, give or take. Because we're using slower mechanical drives, it takes us around 8 hours per media module. But that wasn't a problem. Within our time at Basecamp, it was possible for us to transfer all 4 media modules. We also use these Lacy RAID shuttles, 8TB each, for managing all the additional 2D assets that we captured. In this case, we have 2, 1 for the primary and 1 for the backup. DaVinci Resolve supports Apple Vision Pro headset monitoring from the timeline, so you don't need to render your footage to view rushes. If you do want to produce rushes, on an M4 Max, they render at a quarter speed, so 2 hours of footage takes about 8 hours to render. Conservatively, that's about the same amount of time it takes to dump an entire media module to mechanical disks, so it's pretty convenient to run the transfer and encode at the same time. If you have the budget and logistics, an M3 Ultra is currently the fastest Mac experience available. Yes, it is possible to process immersive footage on a Windows computer, but you can't monitor directly on an Apple Vision Pro. In most cases, shooting an immersive documentary should cost around the same as shooting a normal 2D production, with a few minor exceptions. Because labor costs vary from market to market, and transport, food, and accommodation are also destination dependent, sharing specific numbers is only relevant if you want to take the exact same crew to the exact same places that we went. All those numbers would tell you is how much trains are in Switzerland or how much a hot meal costs there. So instead, we'll focus on statistics that will help you work out how much your project might cost. We had a crew of 4, and we spent 7 days in production. There was international travel. 2 of our crew had a single checked bag. The other 2 had 2 checked bags. Please note that one of our crew, Natalie, was the on-screen talent, and another one of our crew was dedicated to shooting behind the scenes. So realistically, without BTS, we would have been a crew of 2, excluding talent. And you know the cost of your crews, and you know how expensive the locations you are traveling to are, and you know how much flights and extra baggage cost. What about equipment? You'll need an URSA Cine Immersive. You could rent one, or if you're looking to own and operate, they cost about the same as a Burano Plus lenses or a V-Raptor Plus lenses. Those are fairly common cameras to see used in high-end documentaries. You don't need to buy lenses for the URSA Cine Immersive, but you might want to buy an ambisonic microphone. Regarding the rest of the equipment, we use the equipment that we have. So you should use the tripod you have, use the batteries you have, use the audio kit that you have, provided you already own appropriate batteries and good audio equipment. So then in that case, you don't need to buy anything more exotic than you already have and use. There's only one notable area where we feel there are more costs involved in shooting immersive: storage. You will need more memory cards and more backup storage. As mentioned, we took 4 media modules because of the remote location where we filmed. If you're able to travel with your laptop and backup storage, 2 media modules should be sufficient. As mentioned, to control costs in this area, we used mechanical disks rather than SSDs for backup. 36 terabytes of RAID 0 mechanical storage cost us $1,200. That's actually really good. Yes, there are other costs like owning a Vision Pro, but as that's an asset that you will reuse on other projects, we don't feel that it should be attributed to the cost of a single project. Here's the takeaway point. If we can do this, then you can do it too. For a skilled crew, shooting a simple immersive documentary should carry a similar cost to a comparable 2D documentary. If 3D is new to you, there might be a need to buy some small items to add to your kit, but they're a capital cost that shouldn't be attributed to a single project. Finally, there's definitely a first-time deficit you need to pay when shooting immersive. Everything takes longer the first time you do it. On your first immersive production, it's probably wise to schedule extra time or limit the scope of your project. After 4 days of not showering, it was finally time to head back down. Without a doubt, shooting with the camera was a delight. Given the complexity of the product it produces, it is marvelously simple to operate. For me, a shoot begins with high levels of optimism, but filmmaking is hard. There's a constant push to realize your vision, which can drain you over time. It's not until I get into the edit and see some of those first shots come together that I consider the shoot a success. Now take that with a pinch of salt, but that's the process I go through whenever I shoot, whether it's 2D or 3D. When shooting immersive, the only feedback that the camera gives you is that fisheye image. Sometimes it looks awesome. I love the symmetry of the helicopter shot. Other times, like when filming Scree and Rock, the lack of discernible features makes the scene feel flat and distant. But once you're in the headset, seemingly boring shots can amaze. What this highlights is that I've learned how to read the potential of a 2D image from the camera monitor, but I'm still learning to read the potential of an immersive image from a monitor. That will only improve with time. We learned many lessons. Here's a few. We'd love to see 4 audio inputs on a future URSA Cine Immersive camera so ambisonic audio can be captured directly. The added inconvenience of adding that external recorder meant that there are many shots where I did not record ambisonic audio. If we'd had a crew member dedicated to audio, we'd have come back with better audio, perhaps even mono recordings that can be used for sound design. The helicopter sequence is stunning, but filming was rushed. It was all within a 10-minute window. That meant there were compromises. The helicopter arrival and departure is at the extreme edge of the frame. And during the flight, the camera was very close to the pilot and Natalie. Close objects can be uncomfortable in an immersive video. There's a limit to what we could have done as the helicopter's interior is very small. More budget and more time with the helicopter would have allowed us to plan and execute those shots better. But then again, would have had to spend more money. Leveling the camera is very important. However, there are scenarios where you might choose to tilt it up or down. There was a small level on the Kessler quickplate, but it's really hard to isolate axes. A lot of the time I'd use my iPhone and check the roll and tilt separately. It worked well, but it's not very convenient to balance your phone on top of the camera every single time you set it up. And when something is inconvenient, you tend to not always do it. This rigging from mid-49 gives me a lot of real estate to mount something permanent on top of the camera. That could be 2 bubble levels or something digital. We have captured 30 incredible terabytes of footage. It's back home safely, and I've already had the chance to watch it in headset. It's absolutely stunning. I can't wait for you to see it. Once edited and finished, we shall release our immersive video for you to watch. In the next video, we're going to talk about ingest and editing in DaVinci Resolve. We really hope that this has inspired you to start shooting your own stories on the URSA Cine Immersive for the Apple Vision Pro. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.